Chapter 3 Cratered Mercurian Mercury Meteor Shower. Finishing reading this poem, they all decided to fly in single file and not to swerve or pass anyone because of past reckless behavior. Leading the way, Poseidon cautioned everyone to look around for anything dangerous and to be vigilant, especially by spotting this first planet from the sun. Meanwhile, like being fired from a cannon, a charcoal gray iron cannonball-like planet was traveling at 107,000 miles per hour. Heading in the opposite direction, these unsuspecting flyers were on a collision course. Barely swerving out of its way, they all crash-landed onto the solar system's dullest and fastest orbiting planet, while still on their vehicles. After viewing this horrific cosmic mishap in disbelief on his computer, Zeus and Gia very carefully guided them through email to a place to gather around. Of this fossil planet's 1,761 named features, Zeus chose the largest one, named Caloris Basin. Arriving at this 963-mile-wide crater, they all checked to see that no one was injured. So without further ado, lining up side by side, everybody quickly got ready for this fierce competition to officially begin. Revving up their motors and looking side to side at each other with great determination, they all were getting prepared to finally start this aggressive game. Staring at their onboard computers, they read their next instructions. Just as soon as these instructions were understood, all the challengers sped off simultaneously. With their adrenaline flowing very fast, no one took regards to anyone else's personal safety. Bumping into and cutting each other off, this aggressive hunt finally got underway.
Do follow close behind me, then execute a hard right turn at 45 degrees with me, Hades.
Poseidon directed precisely.
Please try to pedal faster to keep up with me, Cronus. It isn't too much further,
Hermes advised, while working up a sweat, keeping in shape.
Excuse me.
So sorry.
Coming through.
Ares and Aphrodite apologized as they were up to their old tricks again by swerving and passing everyone to get in the lead. So, after their short but vigorous race, everyone arrived at this massive hole known as Beethoven Crater. At 150 miles wide and extremely deep, they were all very amazed by the sight of our solar system's largest crater. Soon then, hastily exiting their vehicles and scattering in all different directions, they tried to look for the flag and win their first points. With a white flag against an almost black background, it was quickly spotted.
There it is!
Ares carelessly shouted while thinking out loudly, which he realized he shouldn't have done. You might as well stay down here, Ares. I'm gonna capture the flag. Aphrodite snickered as she ran up the all-dark gray bumpy rock trail towards it.
Not a chance, Aphrodite!
Ares sneaked as he ran closely behind her, trying to pass. I'm staying down here. That loose terrain looks too unstable. Selene trembled. I'm staying here also. Uranos cowered.
They might start a landslide. I shall pursue this lower inclined path instead to accelerate at a greater velocity.
Poseidon calculated as Hades understood this theory and followed, hoping to eventually take the lead.
You should stay down here, Cronus. It'll be much too tiring for you.
Hermes advocated, then exercised great strength and agility by running and climbing over the rocks. Not a chance, Hermes. I am very fit for this physical challenge, Cronus declared as she always kept up, running just behind him while proving her great athleticism. Reaching and grabbing this flag first because of this great agility, Hermes started running down to show it off. Not watching where he was going, he stumbled over a rock and the flag flew out of his hand. Being grabbed by everyone, then slipping through their hands, Hermes managed to re-grip it extremely tight this time, then claimed to be this game's first victor. Receiving only a measly 5 points, This defeater couldn't help but grin and celebrate, while the rest became frustrated and very disappointed with their loss. Still rejoicing over his triumph, this champion emailed his guides about his achievement. Swiftly praising him, Zeus promptly sent them the next verse. Determined to win this next fierce battle-like challenge again, it was Hermes' moment to exert all of his stamina into his pedaling ability, which gave him the lead. Never looking back, this jock concentrated 100% on his hunch of where this next one was hidden. Sensing his vibe, the rest of his friends were flying very close behind. Soon after, these racers reached famous Roops. In total amazement of this intriguing Mercurian landscape, all these observers viewed these astonishing, yet scary-looking and treacherous steep, dangerous cliffs. While still keeping their eyes on this remarkable panorama, they all knew they had to exit their vehicles and hike up these narrow and hilly paths, because their vehicles wouldn't be agile enough. Jumping off them, they all darted up a steep, rocky path at full speed. Running their fastest, they had to stay in single file on this very narrow, winding, and impassable passageway. Not too concerned with their own personal safety, one small slip off this hundreds of feet high cliff would certainly lead to a tragic end. So after all this running up the cliff, Cronus instinctively stopped. Catching on to her suspicion, the rest also paused to observe her every action. Suddenly, with a serendipitous look on her face, this very excited one saw, then ran after it. With everyone else realizing this, they all ran behind her. Uncleverly diving for this flag, Cronus gripped, but it unfortunately slipped away. Not having quick enough reflexes, Poseidon didn't have time to grasp this fast-flying flag. Between people trying to grab onto it, and its ricocheting off this Roops' walls, it was virtually impossible to capture. Flying towards the edge of the cliff, this flag would soon disappear. Ignoring her own safety, Cronus lunged towards it. Joining in the action, Hermes ran right behind her. Then very suddenly, after slipping off the side, Cronus miraculously managed to catch its edge. Screaming for help, Hermes instinctively ran to her aid instead of capturing the flag. Taking advantage of this dire situation, Ares calmly snatched the flag reluctantly, giving him the win based on a technicality. Without cheering for his own victory, he, like everyone else, rushed over to give Hermes moral support by attempting to rescue Cronus. So, as soon as Cronus's hand lost grip of the stony side, Hermes instantly locked onto it in the nick of time. While still in the lying position, using all his strength, this hero swung her back and forth in a perpendicular motion. After a few swings, this lifesaver was able to pull her back onto the ledge to safety. With a short round of applause from the onlookers, then with her own sigh of relief, everyone comforted her silently, for they all realized how dangerous this turned out to be. Worrying how the rest of this game may turn out, their fears soon grew larger. Waiting very patiently for their next set, they finally arrived. So, after this message was read, once again, Hermes was the first to take off with everyone else in hot pursuit. Putting his navigational skills to the test, this double winner was the first to reach their destination. Within a couple of more minutes, everyone else arrived at this eerie place named Borealis Planitia. Seeing for miles, they scanned this flat plain in every direction. Viewing the sun as instructed, they were all determined to know which way to go, then started their hunt.
Okay, you all could stay here. I'm gonna be the only one to find this flag.
Ares giggled, half jokingly, as everyone else laughed, knowing he was only kidding.
No way, this one's mine.
Cronus guaranteed with great determination. I have abstractly calculated the precise location of this flag, Hades expressed, as everyone else started to follow her trustingly.
According to my calculations, this should be the exact location.
Poseidon accounted for as he stopped while everyone else gathered around. Looking very perplexed, they all scanned 360 degrees repeatedly over this totally charcoal gray-colored plane for this hidden flag. With an erratic look on her face, letting out a loud gasp, Cronus detected it only a few hundred feet away, then quickly sped towards it. Catching on to her sudden departure, the remainder soon took chase in this precarious race. Pedaling so hard with all her mighty strength, Cronus took the lead. Finally approaching its location, she reached down and grasped this very sought-after flag. Raising and waving it all around wildly, this champion celebrated with a quick, victorious dance. Expressing long, agonizing moans, the others painfully awaited the next challenge. Still waiting impatiently, Zeus and Gaia finally released the next instructions. Before anyone registered any ideas where to look, they experienced quite a shock. "Wow, a small rock almost just hit me," Selene informed all with much concern. "Me too," Aphrodite also heeded. "Look, a bunch of rocks are falling out of the atmosphere all around us," Uranos warned grimly. "Very quickly, let's all enter this cave on our vehicles immediately," Hermes shouted at the top of his lungs. Rushing in it very rapidly, they were all very fortunate to avoid this cratered Mercurian meteor shower. Traveling at 50,000 miles per hour, these meteorites came crashing onto this cave. Temporarily acting as a bomb shelter, its roof and walls began to explode and cave in. Very petrified, these brave souls huddled around each other, trembling uncontrollably. While everyone else was panicking, Hermes quickly sent out a mayday to Zeus and Gaia via email. Quickly after receiving this dire message from Hermes' computer, this gallant duo flew off immediately for this daring rescue attempt. Meanwhile, back at this crumbling cave, these innocent victims were still huddled around each other and frozen in horror. Using his UPS, Zeus and Gaia arrived at this warlike zone within a few minutes. Hearing their cries for help, this brave duo pinpointed the cave. With the meteorites still pouring down madly, and because of an avalanche blocking its northern entrance, these rescuers had to find another option. Thinking up a plan, Gaia convinced Zeus that they should find an opening on the southern side of this cave. Determining the best approach, these searchers found a back entrance. Hearing their yells for assistance, this obligated pair finally reached them. Still in harm's way, they knew that they had to act fast, for the walls came tumbling down. Ordering everyone to follow them out immediately, Zeus and Gaia led the way back out the southern exit. With the ground shaking more violently and the walls and roof falling, they all hopped on their vehicles and started heading out. Flying as fast as they could, all their vehicles were scraping and bouncing off these winding and narrow bouldered passages, while this gigantic cave was disintegrating behind them. Almost being buried alive, they all just barely made it out. Still in danger, they had to avoid this meteorological rocky bombardment, which grew larger and larger, seeming to follow them. Then hastily, while everyone was flying up at a 45-degree angle very fast, they all were pelted with this storm's meteoric debris. Conclusively, flying away at a safe distance outside Mercury's atmosphere, they all stopped to view this dwelling upon what this near-tragic event could have been like. Narrowly escaping with their lives with only minor scrapes and bruises, these petrified survivors were extremely fortunate to make it out alive. Not sweating the small stuff, no one gave any concern to the minor dents and scratches marked on their vehicles. Proceeding back to base, these two leaders, after much heated debate, mutually agreed to resume this exceedingly dangerous and highly controversial game.